So, Dwarf Fortress Adventurer Mode beta released. It isn't actually quite finished, but I'm really excited, so I just want to immediately make a video on it, and focusing on, advice from years of experience, though somewhat old years of experience. So, Adventurer Mode, you can play it in the same world as you have fortresses, and in fact you can visit fortresses you've made, though I've always found that a bit difficult to actually do. And so, anyway, if you're generating a world for Adventurer Mode, you normally want a lot of beasts so you can fight them, and you also want a lot of towns. And so for towns you want a longer history, and possibly a higher number of civilizations, though that isn't necessary. Mythical occurrence is irrelevant. I don't think savagery is too important either. I guess maximum number of sites. You do want sites, that's where you want to go. Let's set it to very high. I normally never touch that, but you want sites in the world to go to. It might cause lag, is I guess the main concern there, especially if you have like high civilizations, long history. That would take a really long time, but you should definitely go for like 250 years, so you'll get civilizations like spread out, develop capital cities instead of just small towns. Oh, and world size, honestly, you could go with a smaller world size, and that might, help. You could go for, a long history and just a small world size. Pocket's, too small, but a medium-sized world, you're never gonna be able to go across all of it. The main benefit is that you get more options for where you want to be. So, even though you won't use all of it, you'll be able to choose between the places that you do have on a medium-sized world. So I'm just going to go 250 years in medium, but it could make sense to go small, maybe even smaller, and maybe go for a longer time frame. Okay, it finally worked. That was 15 minutes. Okay, so as I mentioned, Adventurer Mode. These top options are new, and the leftmost one isn't implemented yet, and actually the middle one is in progress, apparently. So I guess I'll just show off the ordinary adventure and maybe look at the new ones later. At difficulty, it's kind of funny, they adapted, they called this Demigod in the update post, but it's called Chosen here. Demigod used to be the easy difficulty, and then, Peasant maybe was hard difficulty. It was just, Hero was normal difficulty as well. It was just how many points you got to start with. So I guess to show things off, I'll show the things on easy. Despite this only being the starting skills, it's actually a little bit more important than that. Anyway, character options. We got a lot of them here. So this is a bit complicated to look at first. You have Dwarf, Elf, and Human here. Those are, I believe, the default. So, the screen is a bit complicated. Basically, you can play as anybody from a dwarf, elf, or human civilization. So you have dwarves in dwarven civilizations, you have elves in elven civilizations, and humans in human civilizations, but you can also play as any intelligent species that has ended up in one of those civilizations. Including, I guess, a bunch of types of night creatures, and those are going to be really unpredictable, so I'd recommend not playing as them. You can also just play as an intelligent, so you don't need to play as one that happened in a civilization during world generation. You can just choose any animal person you want. One of the notable ones is Elephant Man. They are the biggest playable creature by default. There's a ton of options, like a sloth bear man. Most of them aren't actually that interesting. I think the main thing you'd look for in an animal person is if they can fly. That's pretty big, but if you end up as a firefly man, you're going to be tiny. The same for the nearby. Just looking at it. Same for Mothman. These are based off of the creature and then has modifiers applied to it. So I'm going to share a screenshot of what an animal person does to a basic creature, but it's a lot of things. Mainly, it makes them into a humanoid. Their body size will be the average between the creature's body size and a human body size. And so, if you're playing a Mothman, that's an insect and effectively has a body size of 0. So, you'll be half the size of a human, which is pretty significant for combat purposes, and also means, with a majority of animal people, you're not going to be able to find clothing that fits you. So that's going to be a big issue most of the time. And so if you're playing an elephant man, you're halfway in between the size of a human and an elephant, which is huge and can be fun, but I would not go for it if you want to be silly for the most part. Another notable thing, if you want to be like a wolf man, wolves are smaller than humans, and so a wolf man is actually smaller than even a dwarf, elf, or goblin. And they don't really come with, like, an upside. These are... The balancing on these is all over the place. But you've got, like, a brown recluse Spider-Man. They have 6 arms, which is extremely valuable, but they're half the size of a human. They also have a venomous bite. Snake men probably have venomous bites. You could be like a bear man, and that's just big. I can't, like, cover all of them. Go on the wiki and look up if you're, like, interested. Oh, I want to play an ocelot man. Or that disappeared. I want to be a lion man. You can go to the wiki page and find they'll be almost twice the size of a human. So that's an advantage in combat. Do they have anything else? No, not really. They don't really have any other particular advantages. So they're just big, and that's all. I'm going to start as a human for demonstration purposes, but I'll also... you can actually create more than one character with this update. So I'm going to create other characters as well to show things off. We'll start with a human. That used to kind of be the default one. Now, you choose which civilization you're from. You do not want to be from an elven civilization. And I'll demonstrate why later. It's down to, like, equipment options. Human or dwarf are both good. They have advantages, I'll go over them. It's kind of hard to tell which is which. I think these castles indicate human, and these, like, tiny dots indicate human. But I'm not, and then these are elves. So this is an elf civilization. I do not want to be from them. Let's be from the Dead Nations. That's such a welcoming name. Okay, so the background, most of the background options are new. You used to just start in a completely random site. With this, you can choose where you want to start. So, I mean, it's not the easiest interface to choose. Oh, I want to start from this town. Can I, you know, you can't really find specific ones unless you know the name in advance. But let's start. I mean, the region I was at a moment ago, this is a decently populated region. Maybe too populated, actually. Might have used too many civilizations in this one. Occupation. Now this is new, and I don't know the details of it. I know it affects your starting skills, but I don't know more than that. Hearth person might be a sensible one. Hearth person it's effectively like a housecarl, if you know what that is. You're like a warrior of the local lord. And so that's you know, if we're going to be fighting, that's the most relevant one for combat, for sure. I mean, trader, you do trade items, that would help you get better prices. But a lot of the rest, I struggle to find the relevancy of. I don't think you're going to be engraving much. Now, beliefs, now this is odd. Okay, this is a very odd, okay, well, so for beliefs, it depends on what civilization you're from, but you normally have a choice of several gods. So this is the god of fish, fishing, and hunting. And then you have religious organizations, I guess. Strangely, this civilization only has one god. They just love fishing so much that's the only god they have. And then there's certain organizations. I honestly have no idea what these do. These are pretty new, I believe. I don't think they're super important, for sure. So, you know what? I'm gonna go with that one. Oh, you can also change the name. Can you... Okay, you can type in... Oh, this is a bit awkward. Okay, you can type in a first name, and then you can create a last name using the classic Dwarf Fortress name creation. Orange Abidob, the Angry Ancient of Age. Sounds good to me. Change caste. For most of the basic creatures, this won't matter. I suppose it's possible... I'm gonna have to check after I make this. But it may be possible that certain animal people, like the animal will have a noticeable size difference between male and female, and so then the animal person would inherit that. I'm gonna have to check. On the beliefs, you can also change how much you worship it. Ardent to dubious. Let's go with ardent. There's something kind of fun you can do with that. Okay, so now this is very important. Starting attributes and starting skills. The attributes are more important. There used to be like a big deal about making like dump stats in this, because a lot of the attributes didn't do anything in adventurer mode, but you only get 3 points per like dump stat, so it's kind of hard to get much out of it. Musicality does do something. It helps you play music better, but if you're not going to be like, do you care about playing music? Maybe you don't. That's 3 extra points. Linguistic ability, I'm unsure how important that... I mean, you can talk to people, you can convince them in arguments better, that's not really important. You probably don't care. Patience, I believe that improves certain types of crafting, which aren't implemented yet, but that might matter once there's more crafting. Same for creativity. Crafting isn't implemented yet. That's a free dump stat for 3 points. Anyway, the stats that matter most for combat: strength, agility, toughness, endurance, focus, willpower, spatial sense, kinesthetic sense. So, you know, strength increases the damage you do, increases how much you can carry as well. Agility increases your... I believe it's your running speed. In adventurer mode you control like if you're walking or running, and walking typically stays the same speed, but running speed is important. And it also improves like accuracy, dodging. It's pretty important for combat. Toughness is how much damage you can take. Endurance is, you know, how long you can run or stay in combat for. I believe focus is just like a modifier to like skills, so it would help increase like accuracy. Same for spatial sense and kinesthetic sense. They'll help you increase your accuracy. So I was saying dump stats aren't that good, but actually if I get 3 more, recuperation used to be useless. I don't know if it still is. Disease resistance is probably still useless. So there we go. Now, a very important thing about starting attributes is that they aren't just your starting attributes. Your maximum in an attribute is either double your starting value or your starting value plus the average for your species. So like dwarves have a higher average strength of 1,250. 1,000 is what humans have in all of them. So if you decrease an attribute like I've done, then your maximum will be going down, but not like by that much. But if you increase it, your maximum goes up by quite a lot. And so if you can get like the most important attributes with the most starting value, you'll have a much higher maximum value after like a lot of training. I don't remember it being that easy to raise attributes a huge amount, so it can be really difficult to actually get to this maximum. But that's why I mentioned the difficulties aren't just starting resources, because your starting attributes affect your maximum attributes. But skills, it is just starting skills. So you've got a variety of weapon skills you can choose from, and it depends on what civilization you're from. But let's... I know one nice thing about humans is they have long swords, which are like short swords but better. So let's get that. Fighter is general fighting skill. You don't really need to increase that unless you think you're going to be switching weapons a lot. Archer is general ranged weapon skill. Last I played, bows and crossbows were pretty bad. I'll check as I'm playing, but the way they used to work is you fire the weapon and then you reload automatically, and at like the time that passes while reloading, you do not get to do anything. It just passes without your input. So if you're far away from an enemy, you can make a few shots at them before they get to you, but if they get to you while you're reloading, you can't do anything, and they just have free reign to just attack you and like kill you. Observer is more important than it may sound. It helps you predict what enemies are going to do in combat, which can be really helpful. So you might want to put a few points in that. It does train up passively, but just getting like 2 points is like a big advantage early on. Swimmer. Swimmer's a funny skill. You should probably put 1 point in swimmer, but not anymore. If you have no swimming skill, then anytime you're in water, you will just be drowning. Which doesn't mean it's impossible to train swimmer skill from nothing. It just means it's going to be very dangerous to do so. So just in case you ever end up in water, having 1 point in swimmer could help you. Climber is an interesting skill. I don't normally put points in it because typically you can just do tons of easy climbing without any skill, but there is actually significant use for climbing in adventure mode. Ambusher is like your sneaking skill. There are actually decent stealth mechanics in the game, so you can make use of that. I guess I'll probably want to show them, so I'll put points into it. You don't need points though. Tracker helps you, like, do tracking of like, oh, there's something that somebody walked through here recently. It's not implemented in this version currently, so it's not that helpful. Rider is really exciting. You can ride animals now. I don't know how important the skill is because that's completely new. I was able to ride a tiger completely fine without any rider skill, so maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it does. Shield user, that means you block with shields better, very helpful. Armor user decreases the effective weight of armor that you're wearing. You will need some armor user skill if you're going to be wearing like a full suit of armor. Dodger helps you dodge, super valuable. Wrestler is for like wrestling moves like grappling, grabbing enemies, Striker is for punching, Kicker for kicking, Biter for biting. Thrower and Misc Object user. These are some good skills. There's a ton of famous stories of legendary throwers and Misc Object users. If you want to do something silly, these are your ways to do it. So Misc Object user is when you attack with anything that isn't a weapon. So like you can pick up a table and hit somebody with it, and that'll be using your Misc Object user skill. A lot of them are obviously not going to be very good weapons, but there's some silly things you can do. The main story I remember was somebody who carried a heavy stone coffin, and they'd hit people with it, and because it was just a big heavy rock, it was a decent weapon. And then after killing somebody with it, they'd take their body and put it into the coffin, making the coffin heavier, and thus a more powerful weapon. And Thrower is a great skill, actually, even if you're not doing something silly. Thrower is like a really good skill. Let me think. So throwing, you can just throw any item, just anything. Pick up rocks, throw them, throw your weapon at enemies. You know, the better the weapon you throw, the more effective it will be when thrown, but you can throw anything, and so it can be really good if, like, there's something dangerous and you got a bunch of weapons on you because you picked them up earlier. You just start throwing random, like, axes at them. You can throw anything and it will be potentially useful in combat. Thrower is actually a really good skill. And I mentioned, like, silly stories about it. I guess famously is throwing a fluffy Wambler at a bronze colossus and killing it. Now for the non-combat skills, crafting is currently not implemented, so a lot of these are going to be useless right now, and a lot of them would be relatively niche. You can perform, you can tell stories, you can sing, you can play instruments, you can dance. None of it is very important, so you don't really need to invest skills in it. But if you want to be a dancer, you can put points in dancer. No problem with that. Reader, notably, I'll try to check if this has changed, but Reader, there used to be no way to gain the Reader skill if you didn't start with it, so it could be worth putting a point into it just so you are capable of reading. Reading also used to be a lot less important. You could only use it to become a necromancer. I know there's more books now, so because there's more books, maybe there's a way to gain the skill to begin with, but I don't know. Then you have a ton of, like, conversation skills and crafting skills, which are, I think, you'd only really want to take if you have, like, a plan for what you're going to do with it. There's surgery skills. I wonder if there's surgery in Adventurer Mode. It used to be, if you skipped any amount of time, then all of your wounds would heal. So, like, if you slept for 1 hour, all wounds heal. If you travel 1 speck of distance, all wounds heal. Okay, so now we have an appearance. You can't customize it right now. You can just randomize it. You have 2 options, because Dwarf Fortress will have, like, civilizations will kind of have, like, tendencies in appearance, which aren't always noticeable. Like, so if you respect local populations, you'll get whatever traits are common to where you're from, but that might not be noticeable. I'll look here to see if I notice anything. Okay, the best I could find is that in this civilization, people have somewhat short ears. His somewhat short ears are somewhat narrow. His ears are somewhat short. His ears are somewhat narrow. So we can, we'll fit in with the people around us. They'll know we're from here because we have our short ears. You just randomize a while and get whatever you end up getting. There's not much of a character customization right now. Personality, there used to be full customization. It's a little sad there isn't. You just have to randomize it. So this defines several things. I guess one main thing is values. So every civilization has values, and then people in the civilization will take those values and then modify some of them. So this character, we actually got exactly our civilization's values, except we like commerce and we don't feel strongly about the law. But we can see, we think those who attempt to conceal their emotions are vain and foolish. And that's standard in this civilization. We can randomize it again, and we consider craftsmanship to be worthless. Okay. We also get personality traits, which aren't relevant relative to civilization, though species modifies some of them. We are avaricious as they come, so that gives us an intense need to acquire object. And that can be, I think, a little bit difficult, because sometimes you have to buy it. So let's randomize again. So now we have a moderate need to socialize. That's not that difficult. See excite and then slight needs for a bunch of other things. None of them seem that difficult. And what the needs do is, if you have enough of the needs met, you get a small bonus. If enough of them aren't met, you get small penalties. So it's nice to have them be things that are easy to do. So like fighting and arguing, very easy. Helping somebody, you probably... actually, if I remember right, helping somebody used to require saving abducted children, which was pretty difficult. Be creative used to be easy. Currently, crafting isn't implemented, so it's actually impossible. Several of them used to be impossible. They might still be impossible, I'm not sure. Let's just try randomizing a few more times. We have yet to get a dream or a goal, which is a little bit odd. Okay, we finally got one. He dreams of seeing the great natural places of the world. So those can generate based off of values. So clearly, has a deep respect for animals. That caused us to dream of seeing the great natural places of the world, and it gave us a moderate need to see animal. That one's not too difficult. So you know, I'll take this. Full customization, eventually you'll be able to choose exactly what goes where, and that'll be nice, but oh well. Now the equipment, this is pretty interesting, this is new. You get a menu, I guess, similar to Fortress Mode, choosing items. Now for us, so the main advantage of playing in a human civilization is the variety of weapons. You've got, let's see, you have 15 different types of weapons, including two-handed weapons, which dwarves don't have. The downside is they don't have steel. They only have iron or bronze. And bronze is actually half the price of iron, but it's like the same, about the same as iron. Like, not really better or worse. So like, you should really be buying bronze stuff if you're playing as a human. Just because it's so much cheaper. It's kind of, like, iron is not even necessarily better than bronze, so definitely go bronze. And then you can also change the quality of it with these buttons, which is new, and kind of a big deal, because getting like high quality weapons, you could never guarantee. You'd have to look around a lot, and you might eventually find some, but then it might be something you don't even want. Like, oh, I found a masterwork sword. It's a masterwork silver short sword. Yay, that's useless. But here, I can choose the best sword type, longsword. I mean, two-handed would be fine, but you can use it with a shield. So, longsword is basically a better short sword, right? Dwarves have short swords, but humans get long swords, and they're just better. Unless you're playing as a dwarf, actually, yeah. If you aren't a human, you need to use longswords two-handed, which is a significant downside. So, if you play as a dwarf in a human civilization, you won't really benefit from longswords. But I can make a bronze longsword that's masterwork quality. That's one of the best weapons possible. So that's a pretty big deal. I'm not very unlikely to find a better weapon than that. Then we look at the shields. Probably want, the material doesn't matter too much, but you do want a shield and not a buckler. They're just better at blocking. They're pretty cheap, so you could get a masterwork quality that makes it really good at blocking. It's not a bad idea. But I should say, if you were playing an animal person, focus fully on the armor, because it's going to be difficult to find armor that fits you later. Armor you get here will always fit you, but once you're out of the screen, you're going to be in like a human civilization, buying human-sized armor that doesn't fit you. So get the best armor you can get here, and then get the weapons later. And so I believe I've mentioned before, the kind of ideal armor set is a helmet, 3 mail shirts, a breastplate, 2 gauntlets, 2 high boots. Low boots are just worse high boots. And then greaves. This will be very heavy, so we don't actually want to carry all that much. And it's all low quality, so I think we'd be better off getting like a good bronze mail shirt. I also don't know, I mean, the clothes probably aren't that important. Okay. So the clothes aren't going to be too important. I mean, I guess we aren't even going to be wearing shoes if we have high boots. But, like, they're not that expensive. I'll just leave the default stuff on. You also start with a water skin and a backpack, which are used mainly for holding food and then water. You can start with an instrument if you wanted to, you know, be some kind of bard. Then there's, like, toys. These aren't... I don't know why you'd really want to start with a toy. You can do... you can just carry, like, just, like, raw, like, sewer brew, if you want. You can carry some cheese, I mean, various foods. Extracts! Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to test if you can, because look at this, I can buy venom from, I guess only from, like, domestic animals. King Cobra venom could be good. I'm gonna test if you can put venom on your weapons when you buy it here. That might be interesting. Then you can buy, you know, anything from, like, Fortress Mode. You might want a quiver if you have, like, a ranged weapon, but yeah, you know, we don't really need any of this. But the exciting part, you can bring animals with you. And so actually I'm gonna have to go back to equipment, and I probably don't need this, like, super high quality mail shirt. I'm fine without it. Much more important would be, like, so this is new. Let's get a war grizzly bear. We've tamed grizzly bears in this civilization. So what shows up here depends on your civilization, which varies. We happen to tame grizzly bears. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go get a grizzly bear. Okay, it's not too difficult to find a helm, or it is difficult to get a grizzly bear. Okay. that might be really good. Now, I'm gonna add some party members. So, I guess for demonstration I'll use a dwarf from a dwarf civilization. Just have to find one. There we go. That's definitely dwarves. Look at all those fortresses. This won't matter too much. We'll be a professional guilder. That'll be fun. So that gave us a starting skill, which, like, it takes +5 to increase from the start, and so even though it's talented, that would normally be a lot of points. So that's actually, for the one skill you choose, that's a really big bonus. Okay, so the advantage of being from a dwarf civilization is getting steel. But it is very expensive to get a steel battle axe. But it's really expensive, so we're, like, even if we get rid of everything we own, we won't be able to get a masterwork one, or even an excellent quality one. So that's not the most valuable thing. Honestly, bronze seems like maybe the most efficient. But we'll give him some steel stuff, because he's our dwarf, so he gets to have steel. Nice. Well armored. And then they get, you know, somewhat different animals, but nothing... Yeah, they probably have the least animal selection most of the time. Now, if you choose to be from an elven civilization, you can have way fewer occupations available, for one. And you won't have deities, you'll have a force which permeates an area. Doesn't matter that much. And then here is the issue. All of the equipment will be made out of wood. It's not like, oh, it's super high quality wood. No, it's just regular wood. And it is not good. It is very bad. Your armor is wooden. Your weapons are wooden. It's horrible. It's really, really bad. So, I mean, you can start in an elven civilization and then go somewhere else to get better equipment. I guess also of note, your starting skills are limited as well. The skills are limited to weapons your civilization has. So elves have swords, bows, and spears, and that's it. Dwarves have a variety of weapons, but only a few. Humans have, like, every weapon type in the game. So, yeah, wooden weapons and armor are not very good. Wooden shields are actually fine. So that's, I mean, one advantage. You get to start with a nice light wooden shield, unlike everybody else who has to have a metal one. But here's the upside. Look at this list of animals. Look at this list of animals. And there's giant ones too. I saw a few giant animals. Giant tortoises and... Okay, we didn't... Oh, yeah, giant jaguars. We can get a giant jaguar that has been trained for war. We can start with a giant jaguar. So that is a pretty big upside to elves. That was random, I believe. The civilization has to have, like, encountered and tamed most of these things. Let's get a cheetah too. I don't know if it's important that your pets be trained for war. I'm just assuming if you want them to be fighting, they should probably be trained for war. And we could bring a whole flock of barn owls with us if we wanted. They don't seem too useful, but okay. We could bring some rats. How much is a rat? I just scrolled past it. 6 points for a rat. We could get hundreds of rats. I don't think that would be very good, but we could. So that's kind of fun. That's pretty fun. Now the last party member I'm going to show, I'm going to show an elephant man, just because those are the biggest, so that's kind of fun. So again, we want to try and be from like a human civilization, human or dwarven. Actually, let's go human. Okay. One of the fun things about enormous animal people is you can use weapons that were normally meant to be two-handed in one hand, like pikes. I know pikes used to be, like, considered one of the best weapons in the game. I don't know if that's still true, but you could use, you know, a two-handed sword, a halberd, a maul, whatever you want, just one-handed, with a shield still. The thing about them is, again, you need to get your armor in advance. But one of the fun things about them is that, so it's kind of weird, but the size of armor scales with the size of the creature. So the armor is going to be extremely heavy, but it'll also be really thick. And, like, with enormous creatures, not elephant man, but, like, even bigger, regular clothing can be impenetrable armor. So, elephant man in, like, really good bronze armor is going to be really strong. And so you can start at any of the locations your party members are from. Remember, we said that way earlier. Let's go to the first one. That was what I intended. Your most trusted companions have made the journey to meet you here today. Let the party venture forth. So, there's a lot of stuff I would have to do for like a tutorial of playing it. But I just want to show off a few things I talked about. So I can select this giant jaguar, mount giant jaguar. I am now riding a giant jaguar. I don't even know what mounts do exactly, because they're completely new. But this is really cool. So, what I mentioned about weight. So, a bronze mail shirt for this elephant man, 784 arists, whatever you want to call that unit. Whereas a bronze mail shirt normally 23. So it's a little bit weird because you can't really get armor for them normally, but you really need the armor user skill, because even like your clothing will be super heavy. That is heavier than like a steel breastplate, just the dress that they're wearing. It doesn't give numbers for your movement speed anymore, so I can't really judge. He seems to be moving at a regular speed. Yeah, he seems to be keeping up, so I guess whatever armor user he has was enough. And also having extraordinarily high strength to help carry that probably helps too. So okay. We've got our silly band of it's just a fun group to look around at. The giant Jaguar, the elephant man with a bronze mail shirt that weighs like what was it, like, how much is this again? That weighs 30 times that of a normal bronze mail shirt. You know, this is probably some really strong fighters. A tutorial for playing Adventurer Mode itself is going to be a separate video that I'm unsure about making, because once the Adventurer Mode is finished, there'll be an in-game tutorial, and so until that's out, I won't be able to compare mine to that one to know, like, oh, it's kind of unnecessary to tell you that this is how you jump if the tutorial's going to cover that. But I don't know. I'll think about it in the coming days. I'm just going to start with this, because character creation. There's I added so much to character creation. This took a long time. Ooh, we got some vegetables. Looking at green. Anyway, so that was fun. Good luck learning how Adventurer Mode works.